Welcome to First Dates and Soulmates, the romance podcast that is celebrating Pride Month by watching films about a lesbian fight club in a high school and a bunch of gays on vacation. I'm Nikki McKnight.
I'm Meg Gatewold.
And today we're doing a double header, a double feature of two really excellent movies. Actually, we are covering Bottoms and we are covering Fire Island. And I had never seen either one of these. Meg, what was your experience with these films?
I had never seen either one. We, at one point I was like, oh, we'll do like a Pride and Prejudice month and we'll do Pride and Prejudice retelling and let's do Fire Island for that. And then that plan sort of fell apart when Pride and Prejudice was like, oh, we're going to do all these other things. And I was like, well, I still kind of want to watch Fire Island for Pride. And that's all I knew. That's it. Right there. I didn't even know Bottoms existed until you were like, what if we also do Bottoms? And I'm like, sounds great.
Yeah, I knew the names and I hadn't seen either one of them, but with Bottoms, a lot of podcasters who I really love and I listen to their shows all the time were like, Bottoms is one of the single best films we've ever seen.
It was,
I was
hysterical.
Like,
God, it was hysterical.
Praise coming. And like, honestly, if you look at them, Bottoms has a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes and Fire Island is a 94.
Yeah.
So it's so funny when you think of like, oh, they're these just like little gay comedies. But they're actually really exceptionally critically reviewed and audience reviewed. And I just thought that was so funny going into it, because if you hear the log line, like Bottoms is two lesbians in high school start a fight club so they can get close to the girls they have crushes on. Mm-hmm. And Fire Island is a Pride and Prejudice retelling of a bunch of friends who go on vacation to Fire Island. Like, what?
Yeah, neither of them is like a log line where you're like, yeah, I need to see that movie, you know?
Yeah. But
But they were both so joyful. Well, Bottoms is a little bit dark, a little bit absurd.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't know what to expect going into either of them, and I appreciated both of them so much. So thank you. Thank you for having the podcast. That way I have a reason to go outside of what my normal, zone is and watch something new, because these were delightful.
Yeah, so a really quick, little bit of a deeper summary on both of those if you haven't seen it. Bottoms came out in 2023, written by Rachel Sennott and directed by Emma Seligman. So it's two unpopular, unathletic, queer high school seniors.
Untalented gays.
Josie. Yes, as they're known as the untalented gays. They accidentally injure their school star quarterback, Jeff, played by a hilarious Nicholas Galitzine. And rumors spread they spent the summer in juvie, so they lean into it and use this to start a self-defense club, heavy air quotes, which is really a fight club so they can get close to their cheerleader crushes. PJ likes Brittany, who Kaya Gerber, Cindy Crawford's daughter. Like, no wonder she's that fucking good. Once you know it's her daughter, you can see it in her face. Mm-hmm. And Josie likes Isabel. And then it actually starts to turn into like a little bit of like a female empowerment, like fuck the patriarchy thing. And then like all teen sex comedies, it goes horribly wrong at one point and there's a lot of drama. And then the finale just descends into full tilt fucking absurdity.
Just chaos.
With like murder and pineapple juice. But it's amazing. And then Fire Island came out in 2022, written and starring Joel Kim Booster, who's such a funny comedian. I really like his work. Directed by Andrew Ahn. And it's known as an explicit retelling of Pride and Prejudice. So it's a bunch of queer Asian friends spending their annual week at Fire Island Pines. Each of the characters has their own like Pride and Prejudice like
avatar.
Like their avatar, yeah. So it's about Noah, played by Joel Kim Booster, and Howie, played by Bowen Yang, and their friends. They're going to this island, and that is Elizabeth and Jane Bennett. They run into, of course, Charlie, who is the Bingley stand-in, and Will, who's the Mr. Darcy stand-in. And then they have Margaret Cho, their like aging lesbian friend who has this island on Fire Island they've been coming to for years. And she's like, I've actually lost all my money. I'm going to have to sell the house. This is kind of our last hurrah. So that's the last, those are the big stakes for this trip. It's our last summer. And Noah is trying to help Howie find love. Noah's kind of like, you know what, Howie, you've never been in a relationship. You've never had a boyfriend. I'm the hookup guy. I'm going to wingman you until you get laid. And then of course you get the Darcy Charles things going in. So we've got a lot of interesting things. And then you have some really just excellent characters, some great music, and just some fun gay chaos. I think somebody refers to it.
Was not expecting Britney Spears sometimes to be stuck in my head for like 3 days.
Oh yeah, that karaoke scene, I tell you, man.
If we're gonna pick like a 90s Britney song, that is like an underdog choice.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, I'm surprised. Like, I was expecting like a not a girl, not yet a woman maybe vibe, but to go with that one, I really enjoyed it. Okay, so let's get into this. The reason I thought of these for Pride Month is because they're both comedies. They're both slightly absurd.
Yes.
And like, think that was really fun. Like, both films are like, this is not a coming out story. We're gay from the beginning, even if in the bottoms parlance, like they're the ugly, untalented gays. But it was just, it kind of changed the vibe going into the movie. Like, as absurd and as funny as they both were, it was also like, no, this is just what we're starting with. There's no coming out. There's no realization. Nobody's awakening to anything. And
we've known this forever. We've known this about each other. We're each other's wing people. We don't need to like have to hash out what that looks like or what am I feeling right now. You're walking into it going, yep, the 5 of us are gay. We all worked at the same brunch place. Or the 2 of us had the same babysitter and we're both lesbians. You know, like, and it didn't have to be a whole awareness spectrum thing.
Yeah, and
so
it wasn't
nice to
also
just start there.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, if we think about, you know, really popular or well-received queer films, the prestige path, we've talked about this a little bit with romance stories in general, is our romance is leading toward tragedy, leading towards a non-happy ending in order to like legitimize themselves or be taken more seriously. So look at Brokeback Mountain, Philadelphia, Boys Don't Cry. They're all important people, but it was all like, witness our suffering. Don't you feel bad? Whereas both of these were comedies straight from the front. They're operating in joy and chaos. Like, I think it's also important to recognize these are not like clean. No, clean's not the right word, but it's like, they're not tragedies.
I was going to say straight as an addition, but they're definitely not straight.
Yeah.
But they don't
they're
follow
not straight.
The formula.
Yes.
They're not formulaic, we'll say.
Yeah. And it's real. Well, in some ways, they actually kind of are formulaic. Like when Jen and I were watching Bottoms together the other night, and she was kind of like, this is giving me like Not Another Teen Movie vibes in some of the scenes because of how absurdist it was.
And satirical.
Which is like, that's what American Pie is like. American Pie is the kind of this very, very similar vibe, but it's straight people. So, you know, it's like they're playing with genre, but they're also like, no, we're just doing the genre. The only difference is that queer people are front and center.
Totally. Is it Superbad with women, or is it Fight Club with women, or is it an entirely different retelling because there are women at the core of it?
I do like that, like, logical pathway, though, that like, oh, this lesbian film, it's Fight Club, which is, you know, a movie about male radicalization. And that's not what the entire film is, but I thought it was so funny that they chose like, oh yeah, this is a Fight Club and this is how it's actually going to turn into female empowerment, for sure. And then you have Pride and Prejudice, like a Regency novel where politeness and how you talk to people is so regimented. Like, it's really playing with hierarchy and with genre, but also in a way that is like, nah, we don't fucking care.
And with gender.
Yeah,
right?
for
It
sure.
wasn't just, this is a Pride and Prejudice retelling. This is a queer Pride and Prejudice retelling. And there's a reason behind that. And it wasn't just, this is a Fight Club parody, which it sort of was, right? But it was also all women in the room. And how is it different when it's women in the room? Well, they started with like, Josie was just in a sling. And then it turned into this gossip rumor thing where it was like, oh, it's because we were in juvie. Like, as a joke, like Hazel sort of was like, you went to juvie? And then it sort of spiraled from there. But a huge under part of the story is every woman in that room had been sexually assaulted in some way, and therefore it became an empowerment thing without that being why PJ was pushing for it. PJ was pushing for it because she wanted to spend time with Brittany, she wanted to be seen, but then there was this feeling of like, well, there are women who are being chased and assaulted, and the next time that happens to you, not if, the next time that happens to you, you can prevent it. And so it was this like weird bastardized version of empowerment of like, no, you have to learn to protect yourself because this is just what's going to happen to women. I love how they kind of hang a lantern on those types of discussions of social commentary, because it comes up a couple times. The other one
we were talking about the ugly, untalented gays, because then you see the stereotypical gay black theater kid like with the girls, and it's like, hey honey, and like all of the straight athletic dudes are like, you look great, you're so cool. So it's valorizing gay men, and lesbians are being left out of the conversation, which is something else we see a lot of in queer romance. Then you have things like when they talk to their teacher, played by Marshawn Lynch.
Oh my God, Mr.
He
G.
was so funny. He's like, that's the best way to be an ally. It's just like, say you are and then don't do anything. Or it's the girls selling their underwear at a car, around cars, instead of doing a car wash to raise money. So we're not going to do the typical teen car wash. We're going to be around cars, but we're selling our used underwear to creepy men. It is... So on the blackboard, Mr. G wrote something. I didn't get the full quote, but it was like, feminism. This is why all presidents were men.
And why it should stay that way. That was after he got upset at them. Because first it started with feminism. Who started it? Gloria Steinem, a man, another woman. It was like a multiple choice.
Yeah. And then the other one I really liked was at the end, big fight sequence, which I definitely want to talk about, when PJ and Hazel start kissing to distract the crowd, and you have that old white dude in the audience who goes, stop all this, get rid of this weird gay stuff. I just want to see my butt slapping sweaty man football.
Groping,
yeah, like all of the groping. Or
same with the principal, when the principal calls the untalented gays, the ugly untalented gays, down to the principal's office, and he's like, you know why you're here? Because Jeff is the most manly, masculine, muscular person in the school, and you hurt him. And like, the whole thing is, yes, it's absurd, it's over the top, but it's also recognizable because we've all seen these movies.
Yeah, like it's playing with this whole thing, because I think what we often see in teen comedies that have something like a bet or a secret, 10 Things I Hate About You, She's All That, they go into something, they go into some type of scheme to achieve an end. For this film, it's PJ and Josie are like, we want to have a fight club. It's a self-defense club, fight club, so that we can meet girls. And then it turns, Hazel's like, you have an opportunity to turn this into something like female empowerment. We can support people. And PJ's kind of like, yeah, sure. Sits down. Yeah. So who in here has been sexually assaulted? Like thinking, what a laugh. This is stupid. I'm really just here for myself. And then every single person in the room raises their hand. And then they actually start having conversations. And Brittany is like talking about her stalker. Or one of the other characters,
Stella, but yeah.
Stella's like, oh, talking about my stalker, and I've filed police reports, but I can't do anything until he actually tries to kill me. So I guess I'll just wait. And it's just like, these things are so felt, and they can still keep it funny and keep it light. Almost,
yeah,
in a way. How horrific this was.
They're able to keep it light, where it's like, I hate my new stepdad, and you're like, oh, I know this character.
Oh God, yeah, the stepdad subplot. We're like, we know exactly what this is, and this is making me very uncomfortable.
And I think that's what made it work, is because we knew the undertones. We knew what they didn't have to say, because we'd seen these movies before, because we'd seen these avatars before, but then each of them had their own like uniqueness to them. So they weren't just flat characters, they were very three-dimensional characters. I think at one point Josie says to Annie, like, even though you're a black Republican, you're the smartest of all of us,
Yeah.
Like,
Oh my God.
they have these little like lines that just like they get to the point of it, but they also have some satire built into them.
Yeah, and I think where that really gets to shine in Fire Island is with Noah kind of being that Elizabeth Bennet character. This is where we really get to play with like gay stereotypes, meaning, oh, the gays are just here to drink and hook up and do poppers, and like, oh, look at them. And we really see that when Noah and Howie and their friends go to Charlie and Will's very fancy house, and they kind of come in with their kind of like Target versions of swimwear, jockstraps, these things, and they just walk in. They're like, oh, this is not our people. And the people in this house immediately look down. Excuse me, can I help you? Like, yeah, is Charlie here? Like, oh, it's our friends from earlier, you guys. And like, but they're, you see them as these kind of, I'll call them gay stereotypes, and being quote unquote, oh, they're the wrong type of gay. They're the type of gay that is setting gay people back because you're so loud and out there. But then you get to see moments of someone like Noah, the Elizabeth Bennet character, he's, oh my God, he's actually really smart. He reads books and he has opinions and he will give up getting laid so that he can just like focus on his friend Howie, even though he kind of regrets that decision later. Like, isn't that kind of interesting how we can have multitudes?
Right. And I think also, you know, being that there are 5 of these guys moving around together, you get the depth of not everyone is just like the flamboyant gay in the underwear, even at the underwear party, right? So you have Keegan and Luke, who are the Kitty and Lydia avatars, and they're young and playful and goofy, and they're the ones who do the backup vocals, and they're the ones who drink themselves silly at the party because they're like, free booze, these guys are rich, top shelf booze hits you harder.
Yeah, it's not it's not the well shit. The top shelf is better.
And then you've got Max. He's the Mary character, you know, where he's kind of doing his own thing. And they all have different personalities, and they all have different ways of showing up. And Noah can be a little over the top, and he can be a little like overprotective, or trying to get other people to behave the way that he expects them to behave instead of being a good listener, which is totally a Lizzie Bennett move. But you get some of that nuance because you have not just the relationship between Noah and Howie, which is the most important relationship in the movie, this best friendship, but you also get these you know, sister characters, and you get the romance leads going on. Like, it was a lot to take in. It was 10 characters running around. It's a lot to hold in your head. I was glad that I was able to watch it in a day, because if I'd had to break it up over multiple days, I'd be like, wait a minute, which one is Dax again? And who's Keegan? And how does he play into this? And, you know, but it worked because the 5 of them were introduced first, and then you get the Margaret Cho character, whose name I forget, and you know, and then you sort of move in, and everyone moves in slowly. And so I feel like the way that the exposition happened worked really well.
Yeah, Margaret Cho is Erin. I think it definitely helped knowing the Pride and Prejudice story, and that the other 3 sisters, and they call themselves sisters, which I thought was such a funny choice. Like, the first initial is the same as the Bennett character, which definitely helped keep them straight. Because the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh, I'm bad with names.
There are so many people here.
Yeah, but I love what both films do. Again, going back to this idea of queer identity, you know, we've said the ugly, untalented gays for Bottoms, but in Fire Island, it touches on the same thing very, very early on when they're on the ferry going over. They talk about the no fats, no femmes, no Asians, which is a very common thing, I'm told, on Grindr to have that. And it's said early, and things kind of radiate out from that. And I like that comes up again later, because Noah's like, you know, I'm going to do what I want. It's all about me. I love myself. I have confidence. I do this. And he and Howie have a little bit of a fight when Howie's like, we are not the same just because we are both Asian.
Yeah.
We're not going to show up the same in the gay community because you are hot. You are out there. You are confident. I am not. I believe in romance. I don't want to hook up. I don't want to just be with someone for the sake of being with someone. I think Howie literally says, person outside my window with a boombox, kind of their say anything moment. And I think it's important to like recognize that even friends can kind of not necessarily perpetuate some of the stereotypes, but they can still live it. And that's where we really see Will and Charlie's friends. Like, they're villains in the film, but also they're just going along with kind of the dominant hierarchy in the gay community. And my gay friends have talked about this often, that if you are not white, good-looking, confident, muscular, like you look down on other people in the gay community. So this is not just gays love all the gays, lesbians love all the lesbians, like queer people treat each other great all the time. It's not true. There's still social classes within it. They're just showing that using Pride and Prejudice as the difference, which I thought was really, really smart.
Right. And I think that that's true across all of society. You know, the more successful, the more attractive, the more intelligent, like those are forms of currency, whether or not you have material wealth. But then you also add in that they have material wealth too. They're a lawyer. One's a lawyer, one's a pediatrician. We find out later that, you know, he's a lawyer for a nonprofit, but he's still an attorney, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of this idea, like class arrogance comes into it. And then when you put it in the high school setting with Bottoms, class is a thing in high school. Who are the popular cheerleaders? Who are the football players? Who are the the cool theater kids, and then you have PJ and Josie. You're like, they're not even the cool gays. No. They're just like
they're
the
at
fringes.
The
bottom. They are totally at the bottom of the social strata, which I love that both sides are really, really playing with this. And I just fucking both of them are so fun. Can I wax poetic a little bit about Nicholas Galitzine for a minute?
Obviously.
I fucking love him. He was
so charming. And so like over the top, but like done well.
Yes. Because when I was watching it, Jen looks at him and goes, who is that? I was like, it's Nicholas Galitzine. She goes, what have I seen him in? Red, White, and Royal Blue. Probably the first thing you've seen him in. He was the prince. Very different. You may have seen him in The Craft, the new one, Craft Legacy or whatever the Craft movie was. He was in that one. And now He-Man just came out. And he's like the most masculine of all masculine cartoon characters in the 80s. Like, he's so funny. And in the press for He-Man, I can't remember who this person is, but I follow them on Instagram. They're fantastic, like entertainment reporter, kind of culture writer. And they were asking Nicholas Galitzine, not like, how do you get so strong? And what was your workout routine? But hey, like He-Man is this pillar of traditional masculinity. He's super muscular. He's literally, I am the power, and how do you think that works with masculinity today? And Nicholas Galitzine had this phenomenal response talking about, masculine and feminine. We all have it. It shows up in different ways. It's not an either or, it is a both. And he was just so fucking smart that to see him in this as like, the big inciting incident with Jeff is that he's fighting with his girlfriend, Isabel, who Josie has a big crush on. So Josie and PJ are in their car and they're kind of fighting and girls, I love girls. We're like, hey, Isabel, do you want to get away from him? Like, we'll give you a ride. So Isabel gets into their car and Jeff is like sitting in front, like, get out of the car, get out of the car. And she just like lets off the brake a little bit and it taps Jeff on the shin. Like it barely touches
less than
him.
1 mile an hour before she hits the brake.
And he collapses and he turns into this big injury. I'm on crutches. Like to see Nicholas Galitzine act like a whiny bitch.
It was so perfect.
It's so funny. And when he's dancing later, he has like a Walkman or a Discman. Like he's got the yellow headphones and he's listening to like, I think it's Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart.
It is.
He's singing to while they blow up his car in revenge for how he treated Isabel and they egg his house. I'm just like, I fucking love him. He's so good. I couldn't stop
Every
laughing.
time that he like collapses and he's got like the pineapple aversion. Mm-hmm. He's like yelling at the cafeteria worker like, quit it, Janice!
Yeah. Like the allergy with the pineapple and oh my God, it's so fucking funny. Honestly, y'all, if you haven't seen these movies, please go watch them. They're so funny. I want to talk a little bit about acceptance because this is a theme we see show up in not only just like teen movies and movies about friends. We do see it show up in a lot of queer storylines. I need to accept who I am. I need to be happy with who I am and my station in life or where I am right now. And I like that both of those films have it. And they're actually like, we don't have to spend our entire storyline here.
Yeah.
We can spend it on scheming. We can spend it on desire. We can spend this time just getting drunk and wasted and beaten up. And it's not like we accept ourselves, but that acceptance isn't necessarily a plot point. It's more of just like, it's a starting point, or not even a starting point. They don't even start there. They're like beyond it. It's like, it's just there.
It's a through line, but it doesn't have to be, and it's
That's
a theme, but it doesn't have to be like the transformation arc is from self-hatred to self-acceptance, like it's always going to be there a little bit, especially like anybody who's different, whatever that difference is, whatever that marginalized identity is, like you sort of have to come to terms with, oh, this isn't what was expected of me growing up, or this isn't the heteronormative approach to things, or this isn't the way that society expects me to be, and I have to be okay with it because it's who I am, or this is just who I was born. I was born to Asian parents, and therefore I am Asian, and this is who I am, and there's nothing I can do to change it, and I have to be okay with it because there's no alternative. But it doesn't have to be like the third act is entirely like introspective. Oh, I've lived my whole life like this and finally I understand. Like, no, no, that's not these movies. This is not the movie for that. I don't know that anybody needs that movie anymore. I think we went through those movies and they've been sort of like integrated and incorporated into this, so we don't need to go back to like, what does it mean to be gay?
Yeah. I think it is really important in stories to be like, queer joy and showing queer people being happy is a political act, right?
Yeah.
Like we're showing happiness as resistance, but it's also lovely in these films that that's not really the case. It's happiness for happiness' sake because that's what the characters have right now. They're genuinely funny. Yes, they allow their characters to be unhappy, wrong, horny, petty, bitchy. Like, and then in terms of like the endings, PJ doesn't get the girl. PJ hits on Brittany and they have like a little kiss, and then Brittany's like, I'm straight. Yeah. And PJ's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have assumed, which I thought was really great. I also love a little bit of a callback to that during the big fight scene at the end of the film. You just see all of like Brittany and the other girls just like covered in blood, and she goes, I'm not gay, I just like gay porn. And I was like, oh yes, straight white women loving gay porn. Like, there we go. And then in Fire Island,
so many great lines in that movie.
Oh my God, so good. Like, Noah spends half the movie being an asshole, and just like Elizabeth Bennet does. Like, but like, so they get to be wrong. They get to be messy. They get to, and their realization or acceptance isn't related to their queerness. It's related to the fact, no, I was an asshole.
No,
I was wrong.
I was an asshole.
I treated my friend poorly.
And I think also, like, when you read Pride and Prejudice, and I haven't watched the movies. At some point, I'm probably going to have to. You're going to make me. I just can't commit to like an 8-part miniseries, Nikki. I can't.
The movie with Keira Knightley and Matthew McFadden is like 2 hours, girl. Okay. These movies were 2 hours.
Put it on the calendar, and you know I'll do it for you. That
it is in the fall.
I'm not going to do it on my own.
We'll do
it in the fall. But I haven't watched it. But I've read the book, and so. And I think that they were actually smart to do this in Fire Island too. That when you have a point of view character who's going to be wrong so much, who is going to have opinions that are incorrect, who's going to act on someone else's behalf in a way that doesn't serve them, they also you need to be in their heads a little bit, so the fact that Noah is not only the main character, but we get his voiceover at certain points, we get into his head, we get those moments of like, it starts with Noah in his apartment in Brooklyn, waking up with somebody and going, ooh, he had boyfriend vibes and I'm not into that, and like, sweet guy, and you're like, oh, Noah, we're starting from here, right? And then he's so committed to Howie's happiness that even in that moment where he's like, I won't have sex till you have sex, like that sort of like pact that Noah makes on Howie's behalf without Howie's consent, but Noah thinks he's doing the right thing. And then you instantly get the voiceover going, I was going to regret that, wasn't I? So having that Noah awareness where he can be the point of view character and he can be wrong and he can be prejudiced. Hello. And then he gets these letters from Will in the same way that Lizzie gets letters from Darcy, from Fitzwilliam Darcy. And it took me a while to get that one. But, and it like, it's so vague and you get that same reaction you get when you're reading Pride and Prejudice. Where it's, what does this even mean? He's so full of himself. What does this mean? Yeah. Like, it's so perfectly executed in that way where you're still getting that experience of working with Noah and being on Noah's side, even when Noah's wrong. And I think you get less of that with PJ, as I would say PJ's probably she's the driving force. She's the protagonist. Yeah. She's the one pushing things forward. She's dragging Josie along very reluctantly. And then Josie's the one who gets the most hurt by the fact that PJ is lying on her behalf, telling these, half-truths, going and moving these things around. PJ's wrong. PJ's wrong more than she's right. And she's manipulative, and she's rude, and she's condescending, and even though she's at the bottom of the food chain, there are people who are probably above her that she looks down on somehow, and yet somehow we adore her. Yeah. Because she's got such a clear point of view, even when it's wrong. And you want to see her succeed, even if you don't want to see her succeed that way.
Yes, I think it's so important. We talked about this a little bit. I think a couple weeks ago. This like new trend, I'll call it, with stories and new adult readers who are like, oh, this character on page 1, oh, they said something that I don't agree with. I'm not going to finish the book. Like letting characters be messy, letting them be wrong, letting them to be shitty, because they have to have an evolution. Yeah, there has to be an arc.
I think the reason that my second book is the lowest ranking is because she's the least likable at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think
she's a bit of a bitch.
She's more than a bit. Like, and she's delusional, and she's in her own head. She has a very clear point of view, and it's very wrong. And I think people don't like that because they want it to be easy. Mm-hmm. But when you give someone, you have to start them from a place of insecurity or of incorrectness in order for the transformation to feel like it's earned or it's valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and both films really allow the different types of stakes to build because they both have a ticking clock in them. They're very different. Like Bottoms, it's them coming back into school.
All of the posters in Bottoms, I was just dying.
Yeah, like both of these, like the okay.
Whoever the set designer was for Bottoms needs an award.
Production design on that one was funny with all of the posters, and then I loved in Fire Island the choice where like Darcy writes the letter, like Will writes the letter to Noah that's like, let me explain myself. It's because Noah lost his phone in the pool and he doesn't have a phone. That's why they don't, when he has to like wander the island trying to find people and like they have conversations, they have to write each other letters. It's because he doesn't have a phone. Great plot device. But with the stakes happening of like Bottoms really kind of being around graduation and this is our last chance. You see this in so many teen sex comedies of I can't be a virgin by graduation, like American Pies. Like we have to lose our virginity by prom. There's so many other films, like I think it's Can't Hardly Wait. They're like, this is our last chance, like hook up with a girl before we graduate. That's kind of what Bottoms is doing too. And then in Fire Island, it's we only have this time.
This week.
This week. And it's the last summer here because Aaron's going to have to sell the house. So we can come back, sure, but it won't be to this house. It won't be the same situation that we've been. And like most adult friends, if they lose the house, would they even come back? Yeah. Because this has been keeping them together. Because Howie and Noah don't live in the same place. They live in New York and San Francisco. Yeah. So it's like this is where they get to see each other. And part of that is Noah just not going to see Howie, and Howie does kind of bring him to heal for that. But it's like these ticking clocks not only like force character development because this is a movie, we need to see some resolution, but it also allows characters to just do the damn thing because they themselves can see the ticking clock, and it's like, oh no. I need to go hook up with a girl. How does PJ put it? I think it's PJ that does it. Just like stick my fingers up in all of the places or something similar. It's like one of her lines. Like it's just.
Okay, let me like zoom out for a minute because we had like a couple gay kids in my high school, but like gayness was very fringe then. So now when I watch gay high school movies, especially having a kid who's like going up into middle school, I'm like, is this, it can't be like this. It can't be this like self-aware. I know that this was written by adults, acted by adults who happen to be set in high school, but like, I just can't imagine having that conversation or that self-awareness as a high school student.
Yeah.
But they also have access to so much more information than we did. Like
they really do.
It was only 25 years ago that I was in high school. I'm not that old.
So if you go back and watch like teen movies from like our younger era, like Dazed and Confused, She's All That, like you look at all of those and go, this is not what high school and college is actually going to be like. That's true. Right? Like none of that is true that I'm aware of. Like maybe there's like one school in California, like absolutely not. It was definitely like Dazed and Confused, or of course not at our prom. We had a fully choreographed dance routine to the Rockefeller Skank, like, and She's All That. So like we kind of look at a lot of these like teen sex comedies and we're like, yeah, this is not realistic. This is not actually what high school and college is going to be like. That's still true, I think, in a lot of movies these days. It's like it's not really depicting reality. It's an augmented reality. It's fiction. And I'm curious to see, especially in queer stories, what is true in high school and college these days. We're old. I'm about to hit 40. You're in your 40s. Like, we don't know. And your kids and my nephew, they're too young to really be firsthand accounts of like what this age group is going through in high school and college. They're not there yet, but I am curious to see what it's going to be like, because I went to a performing arts high school. I absolutely had queer kids in my classes, but looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, this particular person was probably out, but like being out was different back in 2002.
It was different.
And I don't even think like I would have been like, oh no, he's gay. I don't think anybody would have really said the word. So it's kind of interesting to look, especially at bottoms being in high school, and what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's certainly a social commentary on how far things have come, and because I think it's sort of retrospectively looking back on the 90s and aughts teen sex comedies and going, what would this look like if we had this understanding? Because also, like, bottoms doesn't really exist in time. Like, it's,
oh my God, no, it's
now,
so funny.
but also they dress like they're from the 70s.
Yep.
And, like, there are no phones. There's no technology being used. Like, it's very timey-wimey. There's no, like, temporal fingerprints. And, like, even the cars, it was hard to, like, the cars were older.
Yeah.
Like, it was hard to tell what time it was supposed to be set in, and it seemed intentional, and I liked that, because at some points I was like, oh, is this just, like, an alternative reality? But also the technology did exist, the language did exist that we have now. It was fascinating.
Yeah, the first time I kind of clocked that was when Jeff's friend, who's trying to out the girls, he's using a phone book to call juvenile hall facilities to try and prove if PJ and Josie were there. He's going through the phone book, and I didn't notice until like halfway through the conversation he was having on the phone, because he's holding a phone and he's holding a phone book, and I went,
and he's writing in Sharpie marker inside the phone book.
Yeah. And then in the scene where Jeff is listening to music while the girls are egging his house and if Hazel blows up his car, like, he's listening to that yellow Walkman headphones. That's all we can see. And it's just like, oh yeah, like where is this in time? I thought that was really smart.
And they
also
drive like a huge ass conversion van to be able to go to his house, like a big old, like, I'm gonna say late 70s conversion van, and then Jeff's car is like a 70s
little vintage
convertible, but it could have been just a vintage. Exactly. Like, it was a really interesting choice.
And Isabel and Josie, when they go on like their date, they go to a soda shop. Like a very like 50s old school diner. Yeah. I thought that was really, really funny about like getting unstuck in time. And I think
meanwhile they have the milkshake sitting there next to him. I'm like, is nobody gonna drink that milkshake? That looks really good. I would drink that milkshake. And I think that in some ways is true in Fire Island, but in a different way. By putting them on Fire Island, you literally see them take a ferry there and hijack a boat back. Like, that's what allows things to be different. It's not only the ticking clock that's in both of these things. I think there's some really interesting narratives and structures they played with that idea of like, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff, but also how is this separate from their everyday life that allows this absurdity and this satire to just play fucking full out, but also retain a lot of the sincerity I think is needed to make this actually, like, to make both of these projects still feel something. Versus just like in Fire Island. In Fire Island, they even call it out too. I think Noah says it at the beginning, near the beginning, where he says like, time doesn't really feel real here. We know that we have a week, but like it doesn't feel like it happens at the same pace. And then at the end, Will says something similar where he's like, it feels like time works differently, like I've known you for longer than 3 days. Yes. Because I do feel like they're getting way too invested for 3 days, so you sort of have that moment of, oh, but it feels different here. And then also you get some of the history of them having been there before, where it's like, no girl, we do this like karaoke every year. This is a tradition. So when you get traditions, that also adds not like ticking clock, but it gives you that like, oh, on Wednesdays we go here, and every Thursday we go here, or whatever that is. And
the sunset countdown.
Oh my God, the sunset countdown was
that is definitely something my friends and I would do. Absolutely, we would do that. I'm pretty sure we have done it. You're like 1.7, 0.6, and then like there's no post-credit scene in Fire Island, but I always like to check because I wondered if they would bring something back. The last like 10 seconds of the credits, it's audio only, but you hear them doing the sunset countdown again, and they like get it right, which I thought was so funny.
It's so perfect.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about the ending.
Really quickly, and there was one more thing, which I think one of the things that worked really well with the time being elapsed and compressed so much is you get a happy for now, but not a happy ever after for either couple in Fire Island, where you get, Howie and Charlie are kissing on the dock, but then they have to leave. And then there's also this notice at the end of it that is Will and Noah saying to each other, I don't want a boyfriend. I don't believe in monogamy. I don't want the dog. I don't want the white picket fence. I don't want any of that. And both of them are in agreement about it. And then Noah's like, I'm not right for you. I don't want this. And Will's like, okay, then let's just dance, right? So it didn't have to, especially since they only had 3 days together. Yes, they're going to hijack a boat for the grand gesture, but also like, it didn't have to be the promise of forever when you've only known each other for 3 or 4 days. And that's okay as a way to end the story while you still get the happy for now.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to bring up was the endings of both of these. And, happy ever after, as we talked about in that episode where we went deep into that concept, it's just like emotionally satisfying and optimistic. Howie and Charlie do get to have their big moment because Howie, sees Charlie with his ex and is like, I don't want to be here anymore. So he leaves early. He gets on the ferry. He goes back to the mainland. And of course, Charlie realizes, oh, some of my friends are assholes and my ex is a dick. And I actually really like Howie. So then you have Noah and Will are like, we need a gesture here, you fucker. Like, let's go. So they hijack a charter boat from an angry lesbian and they show up and Charlie's like, great, I'm here now. What do I do? Like, did not think this gesture. And they're like, say something. And he goes, I love you. And they all went, no, wrong thing to say, wrong thing to say. But they do get that satisfying ending. Like, they're going to try. And they're a little bit more of the typical romantic character. And then you do have Noah and Will who are both like, yeah, the typical way is not for me. Cool. It's not for me either. But I at least got the sense that, yeah, they're probably going to try like dating, hanging out, and like just be totally happy with that because they're now interested in each other. They've gotten through their pride and their prejudice to realize this is a cool human. And then in Bottoms, PJ doesn't get the girl, although I'm curious if she and Hazel hook up afterwards or if they just look at each other and go, ooh, no, that was just a one-time thing. We don't want to do that. But Josie and Isabel, are kind of shown to be like together in the way that people are together at the end of high school comedies. But it's like, those are optimistic. As with most high school or new adult type things. I'm like, are they going to be together once they go to college? Doubtful. But, it's satisfying. And to your point, it doesn't have to be a really tragic ending, or it doesn't have to be like, oh, clearly these people are going to be married and they're going to be together 10 years from now and they're going to go to bottomless brunch together. Doesn't matter.
Right. And to our point from that same episode about what is the happy ever after, it doesn't have to look the way that it used to have to look. Mm-hmm. When Harlequin was the inciting force in here is what romance novels are supposed to look like, here's the template you have to follow, here's what the male character has to look like, here's what the female character has to look like, here's what page they have to meet by, and here's the outcome you have to achieve, and it's templated and it's formulaic, then you had a very heteronormative approach to what a happy ever after could look like. But with both of these movies, whether they're adults or teenagers, it doesn't have to be forever. It doesn't have to be marriage. It doesn't have to be monogamy. It doesn't have to be any of those heteronormative expectations, because it's like, no, we get to decide. And maybe right now the choice is just we get to spend a night together. And that's enough for right now. That's happy for now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And because we've only known each other for 3 days.
Yes. And I like that, you see this especially in Fire Island that we talked about. The happy ever after, happy for now, whatever that satisfying and optimistic ending is, has to make sense for the characters rather than like, this is what we expect from the genre. So for Howie and Charlie, that's more of like a traditional romantic thing. It's a little bit grand gesture to sweeping things, whatever. But then for Noah and Will, it's not the typical quote unquote romantic thing, which makes sense because Noah has spent the entire movie kind of making fun of the heteronormative romantic structure that Howie wants. So what they get totally works for them. And I do appreciate that. And I think that's why these both work well as comedies, because you do get a little bit of satire, a little bit of sincerity. You don't need to like witness queer suffering, but queer joy as resistance also isn't quite it. But I think comedies have always worked for stories like this because it allows them to be like funny and maybe be a little bit safe while doing something really sharp and pointed underneath. And if you take both of these films on, as you see them, they're really, really fun comedies. And the reason I think they're so well critically reviewed is they also say something underneath. But that's true for all films, not just queer films. Like They have both the entertainment and they have the story. And that is why they're good, regardless of maybe, quote unquote, who they were made for. Very fun. Very fun.
Right. And the expectation that like only queer people can watch queer movies is no longer the case. So I think also there's this shifting thing maybe happening in Hollywood, and Heated Rivalry may have pushed this a little bit too, where it's like, well, that was a good story. Maybe I don't need to look like the people who are in this in order to enjoy the story.
I like it. All right. Anything else we want to say about Bottoms and Fire Island?
I do want to say, when we were talking about queer joy, I just read this recently that when at the end of Heated Rivalry, because I just brought that up, some people were watching the end of this season where they're driving back to
Shane's Cottage?
Yeah, they're driving back to Shane's Cottage, and they were like, they're going to get a car crash because that's
Literally.
the expectation.
Mine too. I was like, something bad's going to happen right
Yeah.
now. And it didn't.
And it didn't. And I think that, you know, we are now at a point societally where we can say it's okay for them to just be happy, or happy with whatever happy looks like now, because you need to have a season 2. But that recognition of they don't need to get in a car crash. Nobody needs to die. We don't have to bury our gays. We can just appreciate the fact that these are human, messy people who are trying to find something that makes them happy. Is like, that's a story worth telling.
Yeah. And I just looking through my notes as I was watching them. I just want to pull out a couple of, this is from Bottoms, just the writing in it was so fucking good. So Marshawn Lynch, you exploited my allyhood. Then there's even though you're a Black Republican, I thought was so funny. I'm not gay. I just like gay porn. During the big fight at the end, Jen was like, this looks like a Guy Ritchie movie now. Like all of the slow motion, dramatic moving cameras. I thought it was funny. And then, I don't know if this was Mr. G or the principal that said this, but like, I knew girls were good. Now that they flipped around and like the girls have saved the football. They've saved Jeff from his pineapple allergy, and the opposing team, who apparently murders a player every year, had put pineapple juice in the sprinkler system and we're going to murder him. And you just see Josie carrying him on his back to like guard him from the pineapple juice and the sprinklers. Like, oh God, it was so funny. Meg, what did you ship the most about Bottoms and Fire Island?
I think I appreciated the subversion, because I just did the queer joy piece. I appreciated the subversion. I appreciated the choice to say, these guys can go on a guy trip that doesn't have to look on like The Hangover, you know, and these women can create solidarity through like societal violence and like systemic violence, and then end up still having the heroine's journey, still having that group of people at the end who are fighting together, who have learned self-defense accidentally, even though that was not the initial intention, like because women do tend to band together in these ways, and like it was violence that brought them together, but also that happened, and it was real, and some friendships were really developed, and Hazel was the only one who saw that happening. So I think for me it was taking the tropes and sort of playing with them, subverting them, seeing how to do it differently, being able to play the game of what's super bad if it's two lesbians, you know, what if we take these movies that always had this one perspective of, you know, these girls trying to be noticed by men, or these men trying to get laid, or these men on a trip together who have to do all these crazy things. What do we do? What does that look like differently if it's queer? And I love that perspective. What about you, Nikki? What do you ship the most?
Oh, you sounded so smart, and I'm not gonna say smart
You're gonna
things
be like,
now.
These were funny.
No, they were. So for Bottoms, I'm gonna say it's the dialogue. I thought the dialogue was some of the best I've seen recently, even though this movie did come out a couple years ago. I just thought the writing was so smart. The one-liners, the quips were just so fucking good. So I phenomenal dialogue. And then I'd say for Fire Island, I really liked Joel Kim Booster as Noah. I feel like he was such a multi-dimensional character. I loved his narration. I loved him being the narrative kind of center of the plot and kept things moving. And I thought his performance was fabulous. But I also just really loved Conrad Rigamora, who played Will. Because I liked him in How to Get Away with Murder. And I actually worked a day with him. I was doing background on a show he did with Natasha Rothwell. It's like How to Die Alone, How Not to Die Alone. And I was background on the finale. And he was there, and he was just so funny and lovely. Like, everybody on that casting crew is one of the best casting crew I've ever done background with. They were just so nice. And that was the day we filmed it in an airport, in a fake airport. Because it was like a departure scene. All the characters are flight attendants, and I had a fake baby. And when I tell y'all, this was the creepiest fake baby I've ever seen. It was so ugly. And like, I had it in a stroller because I was like a wife and a husband traveling with their baby in like one of those old school strollers. Literally, this baby was so ugly and fake looking that one of the costume people came over after we had already shot like a couple of quick things, and she put another blanket to wrap the baby in and bring it up higher on its face to like swaddle a bit more. She goes, "That thing is creepy as hell." I was like, "I know, right? My child is ugly." It was very funny. But I liked the two of them, and I liked how it was a very interesting modern representation of the Elizabeth and Darcy archetypes, which I very much appreciated. So for everyone listening, 10 out of 10 recommend go watch both those films because they're both just legitimately funny. Before we get into the question of
is that an official would recommend coming from Nikki, the host of the Would Recommend podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, before we go into that, tell me about the podcast. This feels like a good moment.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned it briefly a couple weeks ago that it was coming, but at the time of this release, it's out into the world now. I have another podcast. It's called Would Recommend: Real Stories from Businesses Worth Talking About. It's available wherever you get your podcast from. And it's just me getting into the stories and the frameworks, because we love a framework.
We love a framework.
Behind companies who earn referrals and who earn the 5 stars. What does it take to truly be a business that centers the customer, that gives a shit about their experience, and how to, treat people as people, and how do they excel in that? So at the time of this recording, it launched yesterday, and I charted in Canada on Apple Podcasts, which was great.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think I reached number 12, number 16. What did I say? Hold on. Let me look this up.
Yeah, look it up. Get it right.
Where am I?
We want to celebrate correctly.
Okay, so in business, Apple Podcasts in Canada, I hit 116 yesterday. Ooh. And on entrepreneurship in Canada, I hit 27 in the rankings, which was pretty fun. So if you'd like to check out that show, look up Would Recommend on any of your podcast provider of choice, or you can go to the opshop.biz.
Nikki McKnight host.
Or go to the opshop.biz/would recommend. That gives you all of the individual player links. And I'm very proud of it. Very, very proud of it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but that's my like AI optimization coming in, which is like with the host name in it.
It is. It's in the show title, and it's linked to my name. Yeah. So that's my thing.
Proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Which brings me to our ask, because podcasters here, the best thing you can do to help support us today is head on over to your podcast provider of choice and rate, review, and subscribe. Honestly, it helps so much with the algorithm and the searchability and the findability and all those other things that podcast hosts really, really want. So if y'all could take 30 seconds to go do that, that would be phenomenal. We'd appreciate. Meg, do you have a ship for this week?
I do, and I decided to keep it queer. This was actually a book that I put on my TBR last Pride Month during our FF episode, and I didn't get around to it then. So I was like, I'll read it. I read it like a couple months ago, and I'm like, you know what? I haven't talked about it yet. So my ship this week is When You Least Expect It by Haley Cass. It is the story of Caroline, who is a divorce attorney who was recently fired from working in a big law firm, and she gets hired by Hannah, who is the hopeful future ex-wife of one of the partners in her old firm, because Hannah knows that Caroline will go to bat for her, right? She knows how bad her ex-husband is. And so they start to spend some time together. And when Caroline was still working there, she met Hannah's daughter and started a strong, kind of mentorship relationship with their daughter. And so it's this very sweet, very slow burn FF relationship of going through the divorce proceedings. Hannah had been in architecture school and gave it up because her husband was like, no, you should stay home with the kids, and then didn't have the capacity to get out of the marriage. And so there's a lot of, class distinctions happening here where Caroline's pushing Hannah to ask for more in her divorce, and Hannah's saying, no, I don't want to be reliant on him. They both come from big families. So you get like all of Caroline's family, who she has nieces and nephews who are the same age as Hannah's daughter. And so it's this like big happy family vibe, and a slow burn and a queer awakening for Hannah, because she had been in a straight relationship and Caroline had a crush on her even when she was, the partner's wife, and didn't think anything was going to happen. And then slowly it happened. And so highly recommend that one if you love like a slow burn and found family vibes. And it's called When You Least Expect It by Haley Cass.
Oh, that's so nice. Okay.
Nikki, what are you shipping this week?
To my list. I'm going with Dark Mafia this week.
I'm like, slow burn,
slow
like
burn.
low
Do you
angst.
want to read some really dark Mafia shit? Okay, so Leighton Green's Clemenza family series, the second book just came out in the trilogy. So I read book 1 and 2. This is connected to her other kind of mafia series with the Morelli family and some other stuff. But this series, it starts with the book called The Beast Who Bought Me. And it's following Caligula Clemenza, who's like the 21-year-old kind of son of this mafia family. And everybody in his family has been murdered. He's kind of like the last remaining person of this family because other families are going after them. So he's trying to stay alive because his grandfather, who was head of the family, has been murdered, his cousins and all these other people. So he's kind of like on the run trying to stay safe. And then you've got Dominic, I want to say Orsini is his last name, who works for another family. And he's Caligula's dad killed his dad. So he's kind of out for revenge against him. So Cal goes to this Russian Bratva auction house to say, someone buy me so I can be protected. It's literally all I have left for me now. And Dominic spends like $10 million and buys him for revenge. So puts him in a prison that's in his basement. And, Cal's trying to like keep power and get out of it. He's not really interested in like running the family per se to begin with, but he's like, how do I survive and how do I kind of keep the upper hand? So there's a lot of battle of wits that goes on between them. And of course you've got, a relationship that starts, but it's not a very good one when it starts. They're both manipulating each other. They're both trying to like get one over on the other. And then you've got in the backdrop, someone still trying to kill Cal and his entire family, and nobody knows who it is or who's behind it or to what end. So very dark, very violent. But like Leighton Green and most of her work, it's got some really good emotional stuff going on in it. So book 1 is The Beast Who Bought Me. And then book 2 is The Beast Who Broke Me, which just came out. The third book is The Beast Who Begged Me. It's not out yet. It looks like it's scheduled for later this fall. I will say all of these books end on cliffhangers as it's a part of one larger story. So if that's not your vibe, I would wait until the third one comes out. But the first 2 are out now and they are extremely, extremely satisfying. And I enjoyed them very much. That is what my ship is.
That sounds
Fantastic.
amazing. And I feel like as soon as you get a character who comes in named Caligula, you're like, oh, I know where this is going. That phrase about nominative destiny or whatever, where it's like, oh, there's gonna be a lot of bloodshed in this one.
Yeah, just a little bit, which is it's a really fun story. So I would recommend reading it if you like something a little bit darker and you're okay with cliffhangers, or wait until the fall when book 3 comes out. Beautiful. That is all for us this week in our continuation of Pride Month. If you'd like to support the show, a couple ways you can do that. One, as we said, rating, review, and subscribing on your podcast provider of choice is the number one thing you can do for folks. But also share it with a friend. Who's your bestie? Who needs to hear about these films? Who likes it? Send this episode on over to them right now. It's always great. You can follow us on our social media platforms. We are at First Dates and Soulmates on, the regular main ones. We're there. And if you'd like to support the show financially, a couple ways you can do that. One, you can subscribe to the show on Substack. Do it for 1 month. Do it for many months. We're just pleased that you're here. We do now have show sponsorships available. Those are available on our website, also linked in the show notes. Meg has put together some most excellent packages for you, so be sure to check those out. And we've got some merch and fun stickers on our TeePublic store, which, again, in the show notes. We're just so happy you're here, soulmates. We always love it when new people find out about us and join us, and especially in a month of Pride, we're here to be loud and proud of the things that we're doing. Coming up next week, Pride Month continues. We are diving into asexual romance. A little bit close to our hearts there on that one. So we will see you next week. Bye.